You wake up on a cold morning in the American South in 1866, just months after the Civil War ended. The first sensation that hits you isn't just the chill in the air, but the heavy weight of uncertainty that hangs over everything. Stepping outside your modest, war-damaged home, you're immediately confronted by stark reminders of a recent past filled with loss and violence. As you walk down a dusty road, evidence of the war surrounds you. Farms lie in ruins, their barns burnt to the ground by advancing armies. The fields, once lush and fertile, are now barren and scarred by cannon fire. Everywhere there is a lingering smell of smoke and decay. Your neighbors, hollow-eyed from hunger and loss, struggle silently to rebuild their lives. Their faces tell stories words cannot express. Widows left alone, children orphaned, and fathers gone forever. Reconstruction promised hope, but reality quickly set in. You witness families desperately planting crops without tools or adequate seed, hoping to avoid starvation. Confederate currency, once a symbol of wealth and pride, is now worthless. Many previously prosperous families find themselves reduced to poverty overnight, bartering personal possessions just to get by. Your town, which once thrived on cotton exports, now barely survives from day to day. A sense of tension pervades every interaction. Newly freed African Americans cautiously assert their newfound freedom, seeking work, land, and education. Yet their efforts are often met with hostility, suspicion, or outright violence from white neighbors unwilling to accept change. You notice how freedmen form protective communities, establishing makeshift schools and churches as symbols of hope and defiance amidst hostility. Even these modest acts of independence provoke backlash, intimidation, threats, and worse. At the market, prices shock you. Food shortages are common, driving up the costs of basic staples like cornmeal and pork. Most goods that were abundant before the war are now luxury items. Coffee, sugar, and cloth, when available at all, cost far more than your family can afford. Store shelves remain nearly empty, deliveries rare due to damaged roads and disrupted rail lines. Merchants, wary of extending credit in unstable times, demand hard currency few possess. Walking past the local courthouse, you see long lines of destitute people seeking help from overburdened government offices. Union officials attempt to distribute rations and supplies, but corruption and inefficiency plague their efforts. Bureaucracy makes relief frustratingly slow, leaving people angry and desperate. There are whispers of corruption, favoritism, and misuse of funds, undermining trust in those who promise to rebuild. Meanwhile, social gatherings, when once lively and festive, are now somber affairs. Weddings, funerals, and religious services blur together in a continuous stream of mourning and quiet resilience. At church, sermons echo themes of loss and endurance, with preachers urging their congregations to maintain faith despite overwhelming adversity. There is little music or laughter. Silence has become the soundscape of a broken society. Nighttime is filled with fear. As darkness falls, armed patrols, some official, others vigilante, move through towns and rural communities alike, enforcing new laws or taking justice into their own hands. Acts of violence, especially against freedmen and Union sympathizers, occur regularly. The infamous Ku Klux Klan emerges, bringing terror in midnight raids and lynchings. You learn quickly not to venture far from home after dark, especially if you dare to challenge the status quo. Medical care, already primitive, deteriorates further. Hospitals destroyed by war are slow to rebuild, and trained doctors are scarce. Families rely on home remedies passed down for generations, treating wounds and diseases without anesthesia or antibiotics. Epidemics of smallpox, yellow fever, and cholera sweep communities, claiming countless lives already weakened by malnutrition and poverty. Without effective medicine, even minor illnesses can quickly turn fatal. Education suffers immensely. Schools destroyed by battle remain closed, leaving children without formal instruction. Literacy rates plummet, especially in rural areas. The few schools that reopen struggle to operate, staffed by poorly paid, barely qualified teachers. Yet African Americans, previously forbidden to learn, eagerly seize any educational opportunity, traveling miles to attend overcrowded classrooms, risking threats and violence just to achieve basic literacy. Despite overwhelming adversity, small moments of hope and resilience shine through. Communities unite for barn raisings, harvest assistance, and mutual aid, demonstrating the human spirit's stubborn determination to endure. People share what little food they have, comforting neighbors, grieving lost loved ones, quietly rebuilding bonds shattered by war. As the day ends, you return home exhausted from constant vigilance, economic hardship, and the emotional toll of witnessing a community struggling to heal deep wounds. Your candle flickers in the darkness, providing scant illumination as you reflect on the monumental task of rebuilding not just homes and farms, but broken trust, shattered families, and divided communities. Closing your eyes, you know tomorrow promises more of the same uncertainty. Yet despite everything, hope persists. Perhaps it's human nature to cling to possibility even amidst ruin to believe, against the evidence, that one day life might feel normal again. In this fragile hope lies your strength and your greatest chance of surviving Reconstruction's harsh, often heartbreaking reality. You awaken in a damp canvas tent near the foothills of the Sierra Nevada mountains. It's early morning in 1849, and you've come to California, lured by the dream of instant wealth. Reality, however, greets you differently. The chill of dawn penetrates your thin wool blanket, the smell of smoke, wet earth, and unwashed bodies filling your senses. This isn't the golden promise you envision. It's gritty, exhausting, and merciless. Stepping out of your tent, your boots immediately sink into thick mud churned by hundreds of prospectors. Winter rains have turned the encampment into a miserable bog. Around you, rows of makeshift shelters stretch endlessly dirty canvas tents, crude wooden shacks, even overturned wagons turned into sleeping quarters. Men shuffle about in mud-smeared clothing, their faces pale with exhaustion. The scene is devoid of glamour or romance, but rich in desperation. Breakfast is monotonous: beans, stale bread, and bitter coffee boiled in a dented metal pot. Fresh food is rare and costly. Fruit, vegetables, or fresh meat are luxuries reserved for those who've already struck gold. Most miners survive on salted pork, beans, and flour. Nutritional deficiencies manifest in lost teeth, sunken eyes, and weakened bodies. Scurvy, caused by a lack of fresh produce, is an ever-present threat, along with dysentery from contaminated drinking water. Your workday begins before sunrise, your hands gripping the cold, wooden handle of a pickaxe. You walk down to the creek, joining hundreds already knee-deep in frigid water. Gold panning is backbreaking, tedious work hour after hour, bent double, scooping sand and gravel, washing it meticulously in icy streams. Your fingers grow numb from cold, your back aches terribly, but you push onward, hoping the next handful of sediment might contain the glimmer of gold. After hours of labor, you found only a few small flakes, barely enough to buy a day's meal. Around you, tempers flare easily. Arguments erupt constantly over territorial claims, accusations of theft, or mere impatience. The romantic image of camaraderie among miners dissolves in this cauldron of competition and greed. Violence frequently breaks out, sometimes ending fatally. Justice is swift, harsh, and informal. Offenders are banished or hanged after crude trials held by fellow miners. Your equipment, often poorly made or overpriced, frequently breaks. Replacement shovels, pans, or clothing must be purchased from unscrupulous merchants who inflate prices astronomically. A basic shovel costs the equivalent of weeks of labor. Provisions like flour and coffee sell for exorbitant amounts. Merchants capitalize on desperation, accumulating wealth not from gold, but from miners' dreams. If panning proves fruitless, you may join a mining crew. Hard rock mining, however, introduces even greater dangers. Tunneling deep into mountainsides without proper engineering or support beams often ends tragically, as cave-ins bury miners alive. Explosives used to blast through rock are notoriously unstable, frequently injuring or killing those nearby. The deafening roar of constant explosions leaves miners partially deaf, while dust and toxic gases fill their lungs, slowly destroying their health. Medical care is nearly non-existent. Injuries, cuts, broken bones, burns from fires or explosives are treated with rudimentary methods. Alcohol serves as both antiseptic and anesthetic. Many wounded men succumb to infection rather than their initial injuries. Physicians, when present, are usually poorly trained, charging exorbitant fees for treatments of questionable value. Disease outbreaks sweep through camps regularly, and epidemics such as cholera, measles, and smallpox spread rapidly in overcrowded, unsanitary conditions. Social life revolves around crude saloons, hastily constructed shacks filled nightly with exhausted miners eager to escape their miserable reality through alcohol. The liquor is harsh, often adulterated with dangerous chemicals to increase potency. Drunkenness fuels arguments, fights, and occasional deaths. Gambling, another popular diversion, offers false hope of wealth, often leaving men even more impoverished and desperate than before. You might write letters home, but postal service is unreliable and costly. Communications arrive infrequently, months late, if at all. Isolation exacerbates loneliness and despair, driving some miners to depression, alcohol addiction, or even suicide. Families left behind wait anxiously for news, often receiving none, forever wondering if their loved ones are alive or dead. At day's end, exhausted and disillusioned, you return to your tent. The evening air is thick with smoke from cooking fires. Conversations overheard tell stories of occasional fortunes found, but far more commonly, tales of men giving up, broken in spirit, returning home poorer than when they arrived. Dreams of gold seem increasingly distant, replaced by stark reality. Night brings restless sleep, punctuated by coughing, murmurs of discomfort from neighboring tents, and distant gunshots reminders that danger is never far. You clutch a knife beneath your pillow, protection against thieves who might invade your tent, searching for anything of value. Personal safety, like everything else, is uncertain. As your eyes close, you're haunted by the relentless question, is this hardship worth enduring? You remember why you came to escape poverty, seek fortune, create a better future, but those motivations now seem naive. Yet hope stubbornly remains, whispering that tomorrow might finally deliver the promise of California gold. It's this fragile thread of hope, more valuable than any nugget you've yet found, that sustains you through another brutal night, determined to awaken again in pursuit of a dream whose realization seems ever more improbable. You arrive in New York Harbor in the early morning hours. The year is 1895, and you've left everything behind to seek a better life in America. As the ship docks at Ellis Island, excitement quickly gives way to uncertainty. Hundreds of passengers push toward the deck, desperate to glimpse their new home. The Statue of Liberty stands proudly in the distance, but it feels oddly distant amid the chaos of arrival. Stepping onto Ellis Island, reality hits hard. You wait for hours in crowded rooms, carrying your only possessions in a small bag. Exhausted families, crying babies, and anxious whispers fill the halls. Doctors scrutinize each new arrival, marking those suspected of illness with chalk. A simple cough or limp could mean detention, quarantine, or even deportation. Anxiety pulses through the crowd as you await judgment, fearful your dreams might end before they've begun. Once cleared, your journey continues into the city itself. Approaching Lower Manhattan, the skyline looms larger than imagined buildings, taller, and streets busier than anything back home. But the awe soon fades as you enter the Lower East Side, a sprawling immigrant enclave marked by poverty and overcrowding. Narrow streets are congested with vendors hawking goods, garbage piled high, and countless families crammed into crumbling tenement buildings. Your new home is a small room in a tenement, shared by your entire family. Space is precious, air circulation non-existent. The smell of cooking, refuse, and human sweat saturates the halls. Privacy is an unattainable luxury, with multiple generations often sleeping in one room. Sanitation is appalling. Shared outhouses overflow with waste, contributing to disease outbreaks such as cholera, typhus, and tuberculosis. Rats and cockroaches are constant companions. Finding work is urgent and difficult. You wake early each morning to join throngs searching for day labor, factory jobs, or menial tasks. Competition is fierce, and employers exploit desperation, offering pitiful wages and unsafe conditions. Factory work, particularly in garment sweatshops, is common long hours hunched over sewing machines, stitching garments in poor lighting until your eyes blur and hands cramp. Injuries are frequent, with no recourse for compensation. Children rarely attend school consistently. Their labor is needed for family survival. Young boys sell newspapers or shine shoes in freezing winters and sweltering summers, earning mere pennies. Girls help mothers in factories or take care of younger siblings. Education is a distant luxury, replaced by necessity and immediate survival. Meals are simple, repetitive, and nutritionally inadequate. Fresh fruits and vegetables are costly luxuries. Your diet primarily consists of bread, potatoes, beans, and occasional meat scraps. Malnutrition, stunted growth, and chronic fatigue affect many families, especially children. Food markets bustle with merchants shouting in multiple languages, creating an atmosphere both vibrant and overwhelming. Yet for most families, hunger remains a constant concern. Community life, however, offers moments of solace. Immigrant groups form close-knit enclaves, maintaining cultural traditions and languages. Ethnic neighborhoods thrive with businesses catering to familiar tastes, smells, and comforts from home. Religious institutions, synagogues, churches, mosques, become critical centers of social life, providing spiritual support, community aid, and mutual assistance in hardship. Yet tensions exist even here. Ethnic rivalries surface as different immigrant communities compete for scarce resources and employment opportunities. Discrimination and prejudice from native-born Americans exacerbate feelings of isolation. Newspapers frequently depict immigrants negatively, blaming them for crime, poverty, and disease, fueling nativist resentment and violence. Illness and medical care present additional hardships. Affordable health care is scarce, forcing many to rely on unqualified practitioners or traditional remedies. Public hospitals are overcrowded, often turning away desperate patients. Epidemics spread rapidly through densely populated neighborhoods, claiming lives at alarming rates. Funerals become common, solemn reminders of your community's vulnerability. Evenings provide brief respite from daily struggles. Families gather in crowded kitchens, sharing stories and news from home, attempting to maintain cultural connections despite overwhelming assimilation pressures. Music, storytelling, and small celebrations of religious holidays punctuate the routine hardships. Yet exhaustion from relentless labor often silences even these modest joys. At night, the tenements become unbearably hot or freezing cold, depending on the season. Noise from neighbors' arguments, crying children, footsteps echoes endlessly through thin walls, disrupting sleep. You dream of open spaces, fresh air, and cleanliness, but reality remains confined, uncomfortable, and harsh. Despite these formidable challenges, a persistent hope underlies immigrant life. The promise of a better future for your children sustains your spirit. Stories circulate of those who've succeeded opening small businesses, sending children to school, moving to healthier neighborhoods. These success stories, however rare, fuel determination and resolve. Closing your eyes, weary from another exhausting day, you remind yourself why you undertook this difficult journey. The hope for opportunity and freedom, no matter how distant or elusive, keeps you moving forward. In this relentless perseverance, despite the poverty and hardship, lies the essence of the immigrant experience in America. Painful yet undeniably courageous, marked by struggle but driven always by dreams of something better. You wake up in a modest home in the American Midwest in 1932, 3 years after the devastating stock market crash of 1929. The first thought that crosses your mind isn't plans for the day, but the unsettling question of how you'll feed your family. The cold creeps into the room through gaps in thin walls, a reminder that heating is now a luxury. Rising slowly, you wrap a patch blanket tighter around your shoulders, bracing for the stark reality that awaits you outside. Stepping onto the street, the true extent of the depression becomes unavoidable. The neighborhood, once bustling with activity, now resembles a ghost town. Unemployment has ravaged your community, leaving friends and neighbors jobless, idle, and hopeless. Homes once maintained with pride now stand neglected, paint peeling and yards overgrown. Foreclosure signs mark doors that once welcomed families, serving as grim reminders of financial ruin. Food shortages are common. Standing in bread lines is part of your daily routine, a humbling ritual that underscores your helplessness. Meals at home consist mostly of cheap, filling staples: potatoes, bread, beans, often stretched thin to feed everyone. Fresh vegetables and meat have become distant memories. Malnutrition is evident in sunken cheeks and hollow eyes of children who no longer play energetically, but instead linger lethargically on sidewalks. Your family budget is practically non-existent, replaced by bartering, trading clothes for food or labor for firewood. Money is scarce, banks having closed abruptly, swallowing your lifetime savings overnight. The psychological blow of this loss is devastating. Shame, embarrassment, and guilt haunt your nights as you worry about providing for loved ones. Work opportunities are few and fiercely competitive. Each morning you join crowds at employment offices, factories, or farms, hoping desperately for even a few hours of labor. Employers exploit the desperation, offering minimal pay and harsh conditions, aware that there will always be someone else willing to accept less. Those fortunate enough to secure employment work exhausting hours under dangerous conditions, grateful for even the smallest wage. Children unable to attend school regularly wander the streets or help parents with chores. Educational interruptions leave long-lasting impacts. Many youths lose critical years of learning, creating gaps that haunt them later. Teens leave home, riding freight trains across America, searching for employment, food, and dignity. They become symbols of a displaced generation, often encountering danger and hardship far from family protection. Medical care deteriorates alarmingly. Visits to doctors are rare, reserved only for severe illness or injury. Health issues once easily managed: pneumonia, infections, childbirth complications, now regularly turn fatal. Home remedies and advice from older generations become vital survival tools, as professional medicine remains financially inaccessible. You witness rising homelessness firsthand. Shanty towns dubbed Hoovervilles to mock President Hoover spring up overnight. Made from scrap wood, cardboard, or metal sheets, these settlements house families evicted from homes. Living conditions are deplorable, lacking sanitation, clean water, or heating. Crime increases, driven by sheer desperation rather than malice. Petty thefts, stealing food, or coal become common acts of survival, causing community tensions and mistrust. Social isolation compounds your struggle. Shame keeps families indoors, avoiding neighbors to hide poverty. Once lively community gatherings, town fairs, and dances vanish, replaced by silence and suspicion. Churches, however, remain lifelines, offering spiritual comfort, charity, and community meals, even as congregations dwindle and donations dry up. Yet the need remains overwhelming, stretching churches' limited resources thin. Entertainment, though scarce, provides occasional relief. Radios become treasured possessions, gathering families around broadcasts, offering temporary escape from daily misery. Films, though unaffordable for most, represent aspirational escapes, depicting glamorous worlds far removed from reality. Books, newspapers, and magazines circulate until they're worn thin, their stories offering rare comfort and distraction. Government relief programs slowly emerge, yet bureaucracy and mismanagement frustrate desperate people waiting in long lines at relief offices. Public works projects building roads, dams, parks, provide limited employment. Men labor under scorching sun or freezing cold, grateful for small paychecks. Programs like the Civilian Conservation Corps, CCC, offer young men hope and dignity, planting forests, constructing trails, building infrastructure across the country. Still, these programs touch only a fraction of those suffering. Emotional and psychological stress take their toll. Families fracture under relentless pressure. Fathers abandon homes, unable to face their perceived failure. Marriages strain as financial insecurity sparks arguments and resentment. Depression, anxiety, and despair become pervasive mental health issues, often unacknowledged but widely felt. Yet amid these hardships, extraordinary resilience emerges. Communities rally together, sharing what little they have. Women form sewing circles, repairing clothing collectively. Neighbors pool resources, planting communal gardens to combat hunger. Barter economies flourish, driven by ingenuity and solidarity. These acts of kindness and cooperation reveal humanity's capacity to survive even the bleakest conditions. Evening descends again, bringing darkness, cold, and uncertainty. You sit near a small fire, huddled close with family members. Conversation is quiet, hopeful talk of better days ahead, tempered by the bitter truth of current hardships. Gazing at flames flickering weakly in your modest hearth, you find strength in the presence of loved ones and the faint, stubborn hope that someday this struggle will end. Closing your eyes, you resolve to face tomorrow's challenges bravely. The depression has stripped away comfort, pride, and security, but in doing so, it has also revealed profound strength, resilience, and compassion within yourself and your community. You drift into uneasy sleep, haunted by worries yet sustained by an unbreakable belief that somehow, eventually, brighter days will return. You awaken to the sharp clang of iron striking iron, echoing endlessly through the crisp dawn air. It's 1867, and you're camped near a rugged stretch of the Sierra Nevada mountains, working to complete America's greatest engineering challenge, the Transcontinental Railroad. You emerge from your thin canvas tent into the biting cold, pulling your frayed coat tighter around your shoulders. Already exhausted, you know today will demand another grueling effort. Breakfast is hurried and sparse stale bread, salted pork, and bitter coffee brewed in rusty pots. Fresh food rarely reaches these remote camps. Nutritional deficiencies are common, making men weak, vulnerable to illness, and increasingly accident-prone. Still, you eat quickly, knowing delays mean harsh discipline or lost wages. Around you, hundreds of men prepare silently, their faces etched with fatigue, resignation, and determination. Your workday begins with a treacherous climb into the mountains, carrying heavy iron rails or tools on your back. There are no roads or trails, only rough terrain filled with loose rocks, sheer cliffs, and deep ravines. The weather is unpredictable, sweltering heat one moment, bone-chilling snowstorms the next. Frostbite and heat stroke both claim victims regularly. Each day tests your physical and mental endurance. Labor conditions are brutal. You swing hammers endlessly, driving spikes into wooden ties with numbing repetition. Your muscles scream with fatigue, yet you continue, knowing rest is impossible. Nearby, others drill holes into solid rock using primitive equipment, steel bits pounded rhythmically by handheld hammers. Dust and debris fill your lungs, causing coughing fits that linger long after work ends. Chinese workers, vital yet severely mistreated, perform the most dangerous tasks, dangling in woven baskets over cliffs, drilling holes for blasting powder. Explosions regularly echo through mountains, bringing danger to everyone. Accidents occur frequently. Men lose limbs, eyesight, or their lives. No effective medical care exists. Injuries often mean lifelong disability or death, with injured workers quickly forgotten by employers focused solely on progress and profit. Your wages are meager, barely enough to sustain life, despite your tremendous physical sacrifices. Contractors routinely cheat workers, withholding pay, or deducting expenses unfairly. Complaints lead nowhere, as employers hold power over your survival. Yet you persist, driven by necessity, unable to abandon the fragile income, supporting distant families you seldom see. Living conditions in railroad camps are appalling. Sleeping quarters consist of crude tents or wooden shacks crowded with bunks. Infested with vermin and inadequately heated, these shelters offer little rest. Disease spreads swiftly: cholera, dysentery, smallpox, and pneumonia taking lives indiscriminately. Sanitation is non-existent. Drinking water often polluted, forcing workers to consume contaminated streams, perpetuating illness. Social life is minimal. Men from diverse backgrounds, Chinese, Irish, German, Scandinavian, African American, live and labor side by side but rarely integrate fully. Racial tensions simmer beneath the surface, fueled by competition for scarce resources and dangerous jobs. Despite differences, workers occasionally share brief moments of camaraderie, bonding through shared hardship, pain, and small triumphs. Communication with home is rare and unreliable. Letters, when they arrive, carry news long outdated, sometimes months old. Families left behind live with uncertainty, their lives governed by anxiety over the fate of distant loved ones. You write letters regularly, never certain they'll reach their destination, yet clinging desperately to these fragile connections. Evenings provide brief respite, though exhaustion limits recreation. Some men gather around fires, quietly sharing stories or singing songs from distant homelands. Others find solace in gambling or alcohol, attempting to numb emotional pain, loneliness, and physical suffering. Alcohol, cheaply distilled and harsh, leads to violence and despair as often as relief. Legal and moral justice is elusive. Employers rule railroad camps with absolute authority. Discipline is harsh workers accused of insubordination or laziness, receive brutal punishments or instant dismissal. Authorities rarely intervene, and workers have no rights or legal recourse. Exploitation is the norm, accepted grimly as unavoidable. Despite hardships, workers recognize their immense historical contribution. The railroad symbolizes progress, uniting a fragmented nation, promising prosperity. You take quiet pride in helping accomplish something extraordinary, even knowing few will ever acknowledge your sacrifices or understand your pain. Your legacy is iron rails stretching endlessly across rugged terrain, invisible sweat, blood, and tears hidden beneath the tracks. When night falls, you collapse onto a rough cot, your body aching profoundly. Sleep is brief, restless, disturbed by nightmares of accidents witnessed or feared. Tomorrow's dangers weigh heavily, yet resignation is tempered by determination. You've accepted these brutal realities, adapting out of necessity rather than choice. You close your eyes, thoughts drifting to distant family children growing up without your presence, spouses enduring hardships alone. You question endlessly if this sacrifice is worth the suffering. Yet deep within, a stubborn hope remains that your efforts will provide better opportunities, brighter futures, even if you personally never experience them. As sleep finally overtakes you, you dream of rails gleaming brightly in sunlight, crossing rivers, mountains, plains, connecting distant communities and lives. For a fleeting moment, the pain subsides, replaced by pride and hope in your monumental task. Tomorrow will bring more hardships, yes, but also progress, unity, and dreams of a connected America. You awaken before dawn beneath a canvas-covered wagon somewhere along the Oregon Trail. It's spring 1846, and your family, like thousands of others, is moving westward across America's vast frontier, seeking land, opportunity, and a new beginning. Yet the daily reality of this epic journey quickly eclipses romantic dreams with relentless hardship, danger, and exhaustion. The morning air is cool, but it will soon turn oppressively hot. You emerge from the cramped wagon into a scene repeated daily. Families cooking sparse breakfasts around small fires, animals grazing nervously, and children still groggy from restless sleep. Breakfast usually consists of dry biscuits, salted pork, and coffee, often gritty and bitter. Fresh food and vegetables disappeared weeks ago, leaving monotony and nutritional deficiency. The day's journey starts early, dictated by weather, water sources, and sheer survival instinct. Your wagon creaks forward slowly, pulled by weary oxen along rough, dusty trails littered with broken equipment, abandoned goods, and occasionally hastily marked graves. The endless horizon stretches ahead, a daunting reminder of how far you've yet to travel. Travel conditions are punishing. Trails quickly deteriorate, becoming mud pits after rain and dust clouds during drought. Each mile traveled takes a heavy toll on wagons and livestock, resulting in frequent breakdowns, broken wheels, and lame animals. Repairs must be done hastily using limited supplies and ingenuity, often delaying your journey and testing patience and resolve. River crossings are terrifying ordeals. Wagons designed for roads, not water, must navigate swift currents and unpredictable depths. Families cross nervously, knowing one misstep could mean disaster. Many lose wagons, animals, possessions, or worse, loved ones swept away by merciless currents. Each crossing fills your heart with dread, prayer, and cautious hope. Health hazards are constant companions. Cholera, dysentery, typhoid fever. Each claims countless victims along the trail. Poor sanitation, contaminated water sources, and overcrowded campgrounds allow disease to spread rapidly. Medical knowledge is rudimentary. Treatments consist of folk remedies or limited medicine. Families bury loved ones hastily beside the trail, forced by necessity to move on immediately, grief lingering unresolved. Children face unique dangers and responsibilities. They walk alongside wagons daily, exposed to elements and accidents. Snake bites, wagon injuries, and drownings are common. Their education consists not of books, but practical survival skills learned through necessity and constant vigilance. Childhood innocence fades quickly amid constant hardship and loss. Women bear enormous physical and emotional burdens. Cooking, cleaning, caring for children and sick family members occupy every spare moment. Pregnancies and childbirth occur frequently on the trail, conducted without proper medical assistance. Mothers often resume traveling shortly after giving birth, driven by necessity, risking health complications or worse. Interactions with Native Americans are uncertain and complex. Most encounters are peaceful, trading goods, obtaining advice, or assistance. Yet cultural misunderstandings or provocations lead occasionally to violence. Fearful rumors spread quickly among wagon parties, heightening tensions and suspicion. Trust and cooperation compete constantly with caution and prejudice. Social relationships within wagon parties provide critical support, yet often strain under intense pressure. Neighbors help each other through sickness or crisis, yet crowded conditions and limited resources cause frequent disputes. Leaders emerge informally, making decisions affecting survival, routes, and discipline. Justice is often swift and harsh, addressing crimes or disputes immediately to preserve order and unity. Evening provides brief respite. Campfires dot the prairie, offering warmth, comfort, and a semblance of normalcy. Families gather around fires, sharing stories, singing familiar songs, and dreaming aloud of promised lands waiting ahead. Yet conversations also reflect daily struggles, fears, and uncertainty. Diaries and letters become precious outlets, documenting journeys, hardships, and fragile hopes. Sleep is difficult, plagued by discomfort, noise, anxiety, and vulnerability. Restlessness stems from fear of nocturnal predators, theft, and surprise attacks, real or imagined. Nighttime storms pound mercilessly against canvas. Winds howl, lightning illuminates vast emptiness, amplifying feelings of vulnerability and isolation. Despite hardships, small triumphs and simple joys appear. The beauty of open prairies, majestic mountain vistas, and endless skies fills your heart with awe. Wildlife encounters, herds of buffalo, deer, birds in flight provide moments of wonder amid monotony. Sharing meals with newfound friends, witnessing kindness among strangers, or successfully navigating obstacles renew determination and morale. Faith becomes vital. Religious services conducted informally along the trail provide spiritual comfort, resilience, and community bonds. Hymns sung beneath endless skies offer reassurance that hardships, though severe, are temporary steps toward better futures. As the journey progresses, the trail itself becomes a metaphor for life full of struggle, uncertainty, resilience, and discovery. Families endure unimaginable hardships, yet learn profoundly about human strength, adaptability, and compassion. Relationships forged under duress become lifelong bonds, defining communities later established in new territories. As you finally drift into exhausted sleep beneath your wagon, thoughts linger on dreams driving this arduous journey: fertile land, freedom, prosperity, and a secure future for your children. Each day survived is a victory, bringing you closer to those distant promises. Tomorrow will undoubtedly bring new hardships, yet also opportunities for courage, determination, and hope, the enduring spirit defining life on the Oregon Trail. You wake before sunrise in a tiny, cramped tenement apartment in a bustling industrial city in 1895. The air is heavy with smoke and soot drifting through broken window panes, remnants of the factories that never sleep. Your small room, shared with your entire family, smells of dampness, cooking grease, and human sweat, a constant reminder of poverty and relentless labor. Stepping outside, you're instantly submerged in the noise and chaos of industrial life. The streets are crowded, filthy, and chaotic. Horses and wagons jostle for space with throngs of workers rushing to factories, their weary faces hidden beneath layers of grime. The thick industrial smog hangs heavily, stinging your eyes and choking your lungs as you hurry to join the daily flood of workers. Your workday begins early and ends late. Factory conditions are grueling, dimly lit spaces filled with deafening machinery, poor ventilation, and hazardous materials. Your job involves monotonous tasks repeated endlessly, feeding raw materials into machines, assembling components rapidly, or packaging finished products under relentless pressure from supervisors demanding speed and efficiency above all else. Safety regulations are non-existent or ignored. Machinery lacks guards, exposing workers to severe injuries. Accidents occur, frequently lost fingers, crushed limbs, burns, or worse yet, injured workers receive little care or compensation. Employers quickly replace them with others, desperate for employment. Your own hands bear scars from minor accidents, constant reminders of your vulnerability. Child labor is commonplace. Children as young as 7 or 8 work alongside adults, enduring equally harsh conditions. Small fingers become ideal tools for intricate machine tasks, but frequent exhaustion and injuries affect young workers profoundly. Education remains unattainable, trapping children in cycles of poverty and ignorance, limiting their futures dramatically. Food is a constant struggle. Wages barely sustain minimal nutrition, forcing families to subsist on bread, potatoes, salted meats, and occasional vegetables. Fresh produce is costly, reserved for wealthier families. Markets bustle with activity, vendors shouting over street noise, selling cheap, often spoiled goods to desperate buyers. Food safety standards don't exist, causing frequent illnesses from contaminated meat or dairy products. Housing conditions worsen with overcrowding. Tenements lack basic sanitation, ventilation, or privacy. Families share small rooms, sleeping on floors or makeshift beds, huddled together for warmth during winter. Vermin infestations, rats, cockroaches, lice are constant companions, spreading disease and discomfort. Water, obtained from communal taps or pumps, is frequently contaminated, resulting in epidemics of cholera, typhoid, and dysentery. Medical care remains inaccessible. Few workers can afford doctors, relying instead on ineffective home remedies or unqualified practitioners. Epidemics sweep swiftly through neighborhoods, claiming countless lives, particularly children. Hospitals are overcrowded, understaffed, and ill-equipped, treating only the most severe cases. Preventable illnesses routinely turn fatal, exacerbated by malnutrition and exhaustion. Social life offers occasional respite from daily misery. Communities form tight-knit enclaves along ethnic lines, providing emotional support, cultural continuity, and mutual aid. Churches, synagogues, and social clubs become centers of communal life, organizing relief efforts, holiday celebrations, and providing temporary escape from relentless labor. Neighborhood pubs and saloons offer brief relaxation, though alcohol frequently exacerbates domestic tensions and financial hardship. Labor movements slowly emerge, advocating improved working conditions, better wages, and shorter workdays. Workers organize strikes or demonstrations, risking jobs and personal safety to protest injustices. Employers respond harshly, often calling police or private security forces to suppress protests violently. Tensions escalate into deadly confrontations, fueling further anger and resentment among working classes. Political corruption thrives. Local political bosses control neighborhoods, exchanging favors, jobs, housing, food for political loyalty. Voting fraud and intimidation secure their dominance, limiting democratic participation. Ordinary workers feel powerless against entrenched systems, serving elite interests, deepening social frustrations and feelings of helplessness. Despite hardships, technological advancements symbolize progress and opportunity. Electric streetlights illuminate dark streets, streetcars provide affordable transportation, and telephones promise improved communication. Yet these modern conveniences primarily benefit wealthier citizens, leaving working-class families on the periphery, observing but rarely experiencing genuine improvement. Education offers slim hope for upward mobility. Public schools struggle with overcrowded classrooms, poorly trained teachers, and insufficient resources. Yet for determined families, education represents potential escape from poverty cycles. Children attending school, though sporadically, become sources of immense pride, their literacy and numeracy representing possibilities parents never experience. Women assume dual burdens, working in factories while managing households. Long work days followed by domestic responsibilities exhaust them physically and emotionally. Yet many women actively participate in labor protests, community organizing, and social reform movements advocating improved conditions for themselves and future generations. Nighttime arrives, providing little rest. Tenement walls, thin and fragile, fail to block sounds of neighbors' arguments, crying infants, or drunken disputes spilling from nearby streets. Sleep, already compromised by discomfort and stress, becomes elusive, deepening fatigue and vulnerability. Yet within this relentless struggle, resilience thrives. Families support each other fiercely, sharing resources, comforting neighbors facing crisis, celebrating small victories, improved wages, minor promotions, surviving another challenging day. Dreams of improved circumstances for children sustain hope, providing emotional strength amid crushing burdens. As your eyes finally close, exhaustion overpowering worries, you reflect briefly on relentless challenges endured daily. Yet beneath these burdens lies quiet determination, belief that sacrifices made today promise brighter tomorrows for your children. This stubborn hope, more powerful than any hardship, defines life amid the relentless pressures of industrial America. You wake up before sunrise in your small sod house on the vast plains of Nebraska, the year 1880. The Homestead Act drew you westward, promising free land, independence, and prosperity. Yet the harsh realities of homesteading quickly overshadow romantic dreams with relentless toil, uncertainty, and isolation. Your sod home, constructed from dense prairie turf, provides minimal comfort. It's dark, cramped, and damp, prone to leaks after rainstorms, infested with insects and rodents. You constantly repair walls crumbling from wind and moisture, patching leaks, fighting endless battles against nature's intrusion. Heating in winter means gathering scarce firewood or dried buffalo chips, both physically demanding tasks. The morning air is crisp and clear, yet it foretells a long, exhausting day ahead. You begin with essential chores, milking cows, feeding chickens, watering livestock, all crucial for survival. Livestock provide food, milk, eggs, and meat, but require relentless care. Predators such as wolves or coyotes threaten animals daily, demanding constant vigilance. Breakfast consists of simple, repetitive foods: biscuits, cornmeal mush, eggs, or bacon. Fresh produce and fruits rarely appear, reserved for brief harvest periods or costly town purchases. Nutritional deficiencies manifest frequently in weakened bodies, stunted growth among children, and fatigue. Your day continues with backbreaking labor. Preparing fields for planting involves plowing through dense prairie sod, an arduous task requiring strength, determination, and rudimentary equipment. Droughts, floods, or sudden hailstorms destroy crops swiftly, leaving families vulnerable to starvation. Pest infestations, locust swarms, or grasshoppers consume fields overnight, devastating months of labor and hope. Water access is problematic. Wells dug deeply by hand frequently dry up. You haul heavy buckets daily from distant streams, rivers, or ponds, often contaminated and unsafe. Water scarcity exacerbates hygiene problems, limiting washing, bathing, or cleaning, increasing vulnerability to illness. Medical care is scarce. Homesteads isolated by vast distances make professional medical assistance nearly impossible. Families rely heavily on home remedies, folk medicine, and limited medical knowledge. Childbirth occurs without professional support, posing significant risk to mothers and infants. Injuries, broken bones, cuts, burns treated inadequately frequently result in chronic pain or disability. Children's lives blend hard labor with brief educational opportunities. They walk miles to attend one-room schoolhouses when farm chores allow. Education, however, remains sporadic. interrupted frequently by agricultural demands or adverse weather. Practical life skills, animal care, planning, cooking, home maintenance. Replace formal education as primary training for adulthood. Isolation becomes psychologically taxing. Homesteads spaced miles apart limit social interactions significantly. Visits from neighbors become rare events, cherished intensely. Community gatherings, church services, barn raisings, harvest celebrations occur infrequently but provide essential social connections, emotional support, and brief respite from daily monotony. Mail delivery is irregular, arriving weeks or months after sending. Communication with distant family or friends remains unreliable. Letters become precious connections, read repeatedly, treasured deeply, but insufficient substitutes for actual human contact. Homesickness and loneliness frequently overwhelm settlers, leading to depression, anxiety, and emotional strain. Interactions with Native American communities fluctuate between cautious cooperation and hostility. Early homesteaders encountered tribes displaced by westward expansion, leading occasionally to conflicts over resources, land, water, hunting grounds. Yet many exchanges are peaceful, involving trade, mutual assistance, or cultural learning. Fearful stories circulated among settlers, however, create persistent tension and mistrust, complicating peaceful coexistence. Women's roles prove physically demanding and emotionally exhausting. Responsibilities include household chores, gardening, food preservation, child care, and farm work alongside husbands. They face isolation profoundly, longing desperately for social interaction, cultural connections, or emotional support. Many women document experiences in diaries, letters, or memoirs, precious historical records capturing intimate hardships endured silently. Severe weather threatens frequently. Winters bring bitter cold. Blizzards isolating families for weeks, jeopardizing survival without adequate supplies or heating. Summers mean sweltering heat, drought destroying crops, tornadoes capable of flattening homes instantly. Homesteaders quickly learn adaptability, resourcefulness, resilience, essential qualities for survival amid unpredictable, dangerous environmental conditions. Economic hardships persist. Homesteaders invest heavily in equipment, livestock, seed, often accumulating crushing debt. Markets fluctuate unpredictably. Crop prices collapse frequently. Banks repossess homesteads for unpaid debts, leaving families destitute. Poverty remains constant threat, driving families into desperate survival strategies, bartering goods, performing odd jobs, scavenging materials. Yet despite relentless adversity, homesteaders display extraordinary resilience. Small triumphs sustain hope's successful harvests, despite droughts, healthy livestock births, children mastering reading, neighbors offering assistance during crises. Faith sustains emotional strength, church communities providing spiritual comfort, social support, resilience amid hardship. Evenings provide brief relief from daily struggles. Families gather around fires or dim lanterns, sharing stories, songs, laughter, brief moments of joy amid overwhelming burdens. Sleep arrives quickly, bodies exhausted physically, emotionally drained, yet minds filled with dreams, hopes, determination, sustaining resolve. Closing your eyes, reflecting briefly on hardships endured daily, you acknowledge quietly extraordinary courage demonstrated in homesteading. Dreams' motivating journey westward remain distant promises, yet persistent determination compels continued endurance. Homesteading, though brutally demanding, reveals profound human strength, resilience amid relentless struggle, hope amid adversity, perseverance defining American frontier experience. You awaken in a canvas tent or perhaps just beneath a thin wool blanket on open ground, somewhere near the front lines in 1863. The air is thick with dampness, the smell of wood smoke, sweat, and the constant reminder of death lingering in the distance. Your uniform, filthy and tattered from constant use, offers little protection against the elements. The romantic notions of war you once carried have long since dissolved into a harsh daily struggle for survival. Your day begins before dawn, with bugle calls piercing the stillness. Breakfast, if available, consists of meager rations, hardtack, salted pork or beef, and bitter coffee brewed hastily over small fires. Hardtack biscuits are infamously tough and tasteless, often riddled with worms or insects, yet you eat them gratefully, knowing food supplies are uncertain. Hunger becomes a constant companion, weakening your body and spirit as the war drags on. Daily routines involve endless drilling, marching, and manual labor. Soldiers spend hours training under strict discipline marching formations, handling weapons, fortifying positions, and digging trenches. Equipment maintenance, cleaning rifles, repairing shoes, mending uniforms occupies spare moments. Constant physical exertion leaves bodies exhausted, muscles aching, morale battered by monotony and discomfort. Conditions within camps are dismal. Poor sanitation contributes to rampant disease, quickly spreading through closely packed soldiers. Dysentery, typhoid fever, malaria, and pneumonia become common, claiming far more lives than battle itself. Medical care is rudimentary. Surgeons, overwhelmed and poorly equipped, frequently resort to crude amputations or ineffective treatments. Disease and infection kill countless soldiers, leaving many disabled permanently. Combat introduces terrifying uncertainties. Battles arrive unpredictably, forcing immediate mobilization. Marching swiftly towards enemy lines, fear grips every soldier, regardless of experience. The deafening roar of artillery, screams of wounded men, and chaos on battlefields become etched permanently into memory. Gunfire, smoke, confusion, and bloodshed define these moments. Survival depends upon luck as much as skill or bravery. After battles, exhaustion and trauma overwhelm survivors. You assist wounded comrades, carrying them desperately toward overwhelmed medical tents. The sight of amputations performed hastily without proper anesthesia remains hauntingly vivid. Casualties pile up, friends, neighbors, brothers, deaths deeply personal, yet numbing in sheer frequency. Burial details hastily inter fallen comrades in mass graves, marking lives lost with crude wooden markers. Communication with family remains scarce. Letters, treasured greatly, arrive infrequently, months late, carrying outdated news or heartbreaking losses. You write home often, though aware many letters may never reach loved ones. Families endure constant anxiety, awaiting news of survival, injury, or death, their lives suspended in uncertain limbo until war concludes. Soldiers' morale fluctuates constantly. Victories briefly lift spirits, yet sustained hardships, battlefield losses, and prolonged separation from home depress morale significantly. Desertion rates increase as exhaustion and despair mount. Discipline becomes increasingly harsh, punishments, severe floggings, imprisonment, executions for desertion or insubordination, meant to maintain order amid growing desperation. Yet camaraderie sustains emotional strength profoundly. Friendships forged in shared hardship become powerful emotional anchors. Soldiers rely on each other intensely for emotional support, practical assistance, and mutual protection. Bonds formed amid adversity persist lifelong, defining veterans' post-war experiences powerfully. Recreation, though limited, provides occasional relief. Soldiers entertain themselves through simple means card games, singing songs around campfires, storytelling. Gambling becomes popular distraction, though frequently causing financial strain. Humor, dark yet essential, allows temporary escape from harsh realities, easing psychological burdens momentarily. Weather poses additional hardships. Summers bring oppressive heat, increasing dehydration, heat stroke, and exhaustion risks significantly. Winters mean bitter cold, freezing rain, and snow complicating movement, supplies, survival. Soldiers endure exposure without adequate shelter or clothing, suffering frostbite or hypothermia frequently. Nature becomes formidable adversary, exacerbating battlefield challenges relentlessly. Food supplies deteriorate significantly as war continues. Armies increasingly rely on foraging, stealing livestock, or crops from local farms. Civilians resentful towards hungry soldiers create tensions, complicating interactions and morale further. Malnutrition weakens bodies substantially, reducing soldiers' ability to fight or resist disease effectively. Emotional and psychological traumas linger profoundly. Witnessing constant death, experiencing daily fear, enduring prolonged hardships affect mental health significantly. Soldiers exhibit symptoms of anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, though unidentified officially during this era. Veterans returning home after war carry psychological scars deeply, impacting post-war adjustment severely. Yet amid hardships, soldiers display extraordinary resilience. Small acts of kindness, sharing rations, comforting wounded comrades, offering encouragement reflect human compassion profoundly. Soldiers sacrifice repeatedly for comrades, demonstrating courage, selflessness, determination remarkably. Personal bravery, heroism demonstrated regularly inspire awe and respect deeply. Night arrives, offering little rest. Soldiers sleep fitfully, anxious over impending battles, haunted by memories already formed. Sounds, distant gunfire, wounded soldiers' cries, camp noises interrupt sleep frequently, deepening fatigue and vulnerability. Dreams become nightmares, replaying battle horrors vividly, preventing restful sleep persistently. Yet within darkness lies quiet determination, belief in cause fought, commitment to comrades, hope for war's conclusion. Despite overwhelming adversity endured daily, soldiers persist courageously, motivated deeply by duty, loyalty, honor. Their sacrifice is immense, yet strength demonstrated profoundly moving. Closing your eyes finally, weary yet determined, you acknowledge quietly profound strength demonstrated through relentless hardships. Tomorrow promises further uncertainty, dangers unknown, challenges severe. Yet soldiers endure bravely, sustained powerfully by camaraderie, resilience, unyielding determination, defining their extraordinary daily struggle through America's devastating Civil War. You awaken to the gritty taste of dust coating your lips, filling your nostrils and lining your throat. It's the spring of 1935 in Oklahoma, the heart of America's Dust Bowl. Sunlight barely filters through windows, blocked by clouds of dust swirling endlessly across barren fields. Your farmhouse creaks, battered by relentless wind, dust particles sifting through cracks, settling in thick layers on every surface. The landscape around your home is a desolate wasteland. Once fertile land, lush with wheat and corn, now lies dry, cracked, and lifeless. Fields have turned to fine powder, blowing away with every gust, stripping your farm of its precious topsoil. Your neighbors, once prosperous farmers, share your despair, watching helplessly as their livelihoods vanish with the soil. Morning routines involve endless battles against invasive dust. You sweep, mop, and scrub tirelessly, yet the fine dirt returns almost immediately. Cooking food involves constant vigilance to avoid contamination. Meals, already sparse, consist of potatoes, beans, cornbread staples, stretching minimal resources as far as possible. Fresh produce is rare. Nutritional deficiencies widespread. Children growing thin and weak from inadequate diets. Health problems become pervasive. Constant inhalation of fine dust leads to severe respiratory ailments, coughing fits, asthma, and dust pneumonia, claiming lives, particularly among children and elderly family members. Medical care is scarce, rural doctors overwhelmed, hospitals distant, costly treatments unaffordable. Home remedies become critical survival tools, yet often insufficient against dust-related illnesses. Economic desperation deepens steadily. Crop failures devastate farming communities financially, pushing families into mounting debt. Banks foreclose farms, repossessing land, equipment, homes, leaving families homeless, destitute, and emotionally shattered. Auction signs dot your community, announcing neighbors' financial ruin, painful reminders of collective loss and vulnerability. Unemployment reaches crisis levels. Farmers unable to produce crops seek alternative employment desperately, yet job opportunities remain scarce nationwide. Men ride freight trains westward, searching fruitlessly for employment, leaving families behind, uncertain of their return. Communities fracture emotionally as families separate out of necessity. Survival strategies painful yet unavoidable. Migration westward promises hope yet delivers profound hardship. Families load belongings hastily into vehicles barely roadworthy, traveling thousands of miles seeking employment opportunities in California. The journey itself proves grueling long distances, mechanical breakdowns, minimal resources testing, physical endurance, and emotional resilience profoundly. Upon arrival, migrants encounter severe prejudice, exploitation, and disappointment. California farm owners offer minimal wages, exploiting desperation ruthlessly. Living conditions in migrant camps deteriorate. Overcrowded tents, inadequate sanitation, rampant disease, constant hunger making life scarcely better than Dust Bowl conditions left behind. Resentment towards newcomers exacerbates social isolation and emotional despair significantly. Social life deteriorates dramatically. Community gatherings, once vibrant, now scarce. Families withdrawing emotionally amid shame, embarrassment, depression. Churches become vital emotional anchors, providing spiritual comfort, social support, communal assistance desperately needed. Yet declining congregations and limited resources strain churches' ability to sustain communities through relentless hardships endured collectively. Educational disruptions profoundly affect children. School attendance declines dramatically amid economic desperation, poor health, family migrations. Educational gaps created through prolonged absences limit future opportunities significantly. Teachers struggle profoundly, lacking resources, battling dust-filled classrooms, witnessing children's declining health, emotional well-being deteriorating steadily. Government assistance programs emerge gradually. President Roosevelt's New Deal introduces relief efforts, soil conservation programs, job creation initiatives, direct financial aid offering limited hope, yet facing bureaucratic delays, mismanagement, corruption frequently. Families wait anxiously in relief lines, their pride wounded, yet survival dependent upon assistance provided slowly, inadequately. Weather events devastate communities further. Dust storms, black blizzards, arrive unpredictably, darkening skies ominously, visibility dropping instantly. Families rush desperately indoors, sealing windows, doors hastily, wet sheets hung futilely attempting dust containment. Storms last hours, sometimes days, terrifying experiences searing memories deeply, reinforcing helplessness against nature's relentless assault. Women's roles expand dramatically amid economic desperation. Mothers assume increased responsibilities, securing food, maintaining household routines, managing family health, emotional well-being intensely. Their emotional resilience profoundly tested facing isolation, poverty, children suffering, yet demonstrating extraordinary strength, courage, determination through persistent hardships endured silently, heroically. Psychological impacts linger profoundly. Families experience anxiety, depression, emotional trauma enduringly. Men struggle deeply, feeling profound guilt, shame over inability to provide adequately. Emotional tensions escalate into marital conflicts, family breakdowns, increasing domestic violence, abandonment. Emotional scars, lingering long beyond economic recovery, eventually achieved slowly, uncertainly. Yet despite overwhelming adversity, communities demonstrate extraordinary resilience. Families share resources generously, neighbors assist during crises unselfishly, communal gardens established cooperatively, easing hunger modestly. Mutual support networks form organically, friendships strengthen profoundly amid shared hardship, collective struggles binding communities tightly emotionally, socially. Evening brings brief respite. Families gathered quietly together, listening intently to radio broadcasts offering entertainment. News, brief escape emotionally from daily misery, endured collectively. Sleep arrives slowly, disrupted by coughing fits, anxiety over uncertain futures, persistently troubling dreams, thoughts. Closing your eyes finally, you acknowledge quietly extraordinary courage, demonstrated daily surviving relentless Dust Bowl hardships. Dreams motivating continued endurance remain modest yet profoundly hopeful. Economic recovery eventually, restored health, stability regained slowly. Determination sustains emotional resilience powerfully. Communities enduring together hardships unimaginable, yet emerging stronger, unified profoundly, bound tightly through collective courage, defining America's extraordinary Dust Bowl survival experience. You awaken before dawn in your cramped tent, nestled among hundreds scattered along muddy hillsides near a California riverbank. It's 1849, and you, like thousands drawn by rumors of gold, have traveled far seeking wealth and opportunity. Yet reality bears little resemblance to your hopeful dreams. Each day is an exhausting, gritty battle against fatigue, disappointment, and danger. Mornings are cold, damp, and uncomfortable. You rise stiffly, muscles aching from yesterday's relentless physical labor. Breakfast is a sparse, monotonous affair: hardtack biscuits, beans, salted pork, bitter coffee boiled hastily over a smoky fire. Fresh food disappeared long ago. Scurvy, malnutrition, and digestive problems become common. Despite hunger gnawing constantly, you eat quickly, anxious to begin the day's search. Gold prospecting involves backbreaking labor under harsh conditions. Your workday begins kneeling in icy streams, panning for gold, endlessly scooping gravel into pans, swirling carefully, hoping desperately to glimpse glittering specks among endless sand and mud. Your fingers grow numb from cold water. Back aches intensely, but you persist stubbornly, driven by desperate hope. Tools are basic and unreliable: pans, shovels, picks requiring constant repairs or replacements. Merchants exploit desperate miners ruthlessly, inflating prices for equipment, food, clothing outrageously. Supplies cost exorbitantly, consuming limited gold discoveries immediately. Economic desperation mounts quickly. Many prospectors accumulate debt rather than fortune, dreams dissolving rapidly into bitter disappointment. Mining techniques become increasingly risky. Placer mining panning riverbeds, exhausted quickly, forcing miners into dangerous tunnels or shafts dug hastily without proper reinforcement. Cave-ins occur frequently, burying miners alive tragically. Explosives used to blast rock prove unstable. Accidents regularly cause severe injuries or death. Medical care is non-existent. Wounds, infections, broken bones treated inadequately, resulting in permanent disabilities or fatalities. Camp conditions deteriorate steadily. Miners crowd together densely, creating unsanitary, uncomfortable environments. Garbage accumulates quickly, attracting vermin, spreading disease: swiftly cholera, dysentery, typhoid claiming lives indiscriminately. Clean drinking water becomes scarce. Miners consume contaminated streams regularly, causing severe illnesses persistently. Social tensions simmer continuously. Competition over limited gold claims fuels frequent arguments, violence erupting suddenly, sometimes fatally. Disputes resolved hastily through informal trials conducted by fellow miners, justice swift yet arbitrary frequently. Theft becomes widespread. Miners protect gold discoveries vigilantly, mistrusting neighbors intensely. Friendships strained constantly through suspicion, greed, desperation, fueling hostility continuously. Cultural diversity complicates interactions further. Prospectors arrive globally: Americans, Mexicans, Europeans, Chinese, Australians, bringing languages, customs, traditions clashing frequently. Racial prejudice increases steadily. Chinese miners especially face severe discrimination, harassment, violence regularly, their contributions ignored, rights violated systematically. Ethnic enclaves form naturally yet exacerbate isolation. Suspicion among groups intensifying daily struggles endured collectively. Communication home becomes sporadic, uncertain. Mail services unreliable. Letters arriving months late, carrying outdated news heartbreakingly. Families left behind endure constant anxiety, uncertain of miners' fate. Letters become treasured lifelines, emotionally yet insufficient substitutes emotionally for actual presence, support desperately needed mutually. Entertainment limited severely. Miners spend evenings gambling, drinking harsh alcohol distilled cheaply yet dangerously. Gambling offers false hope fleetingly, yet exacerbates financial desperation significantly. Alcohol consumption increases violence. emotional despair, isolation experienced profoundly. Miners, vulnerable emotionally, psychologically amid relentless hardships, endured silently, individually. Women's experiences prove especially harsh. Few accompany male relatives initially, yet increasing female arrivals provide critical support, cooking meals, cleaning laundry, managing accommodations within camps. Women face significant vulnerability, sexual harassment, violence widespread, yet demonstrate extraordinary resilience, establishing businesses, restaurants, boarding houses, laundries, providing critical services, stabilizing communities significantly. Emotional strain increases profoundly. Persistent disappointment, physical exhaustion, isolation create anxiety, depression commonly. Dreams motivating initial journey dissolve steadily, replaced increasingly by bitterness. Despair emotionally devastating profoundly. Miners abandon claims frequently, returning home poorer emotionally, financially devastated permanently through failed pursuit desperately. Yet amid relentless hardships, occasional triumphs sustain stubborn hope. Small gold discoveries inspire renewed optimism briefly, dreams revived momentarily, morale boosted temporarily. Communities support miners facing crisis collectively, assisting injured colleagues generously, sharing limited resources unselfishly. Friendships strengthened profoundly amid shared adversity endured together. Nighttime brings restless sleep beneath thin canvas tents, offering minimal protection against elements. Weather poses additional threats. Rainstorms flooding camps frequently, causing severe discomfort. Health problems persistently. Fear of theft disrupts sleep regularly. Anxiety over uncertain futures, troubling minds persistently through darkness endured uncomfortably, vulnerably. Closing your eyes finally, weary yet determined, you reflect briefly on immense hardships endured daily. Dreams motivating, continued pursuit remain elusive. Distant promises, increasingly doubtful emotionally. Yet persistent hope endures stubbornly, belief eventually fortune discovered, sacrifices justified finally, struggles overcome successfully ultimately. This stubborn hope sustains emotional resilience profoundly, miners enduring relentlessly harsh conditions courageously, demonstrating extraordinary determination amid overwhelming adversity, experienced silently, individually, yet collectively defining America's historic gold rush profoundly. You awaken in the pre-dawn darkness of your cramped apartment, located in the overcrowded tenements of a rapidly industrializing American city. The year is 1890, and like thousands around you, daily life revolves around relentless factory labor. Your room, shared by multiple family members, smells of sweat, smoke, and exhaustion, each day blending into an endless cycle of monotony and fatigue. Outside, the street pulses with the early movements of tired workers, heading toward towering factory buildings, belching thick smoke. The industrial skyline dominates the horizon, marked by brick chimneys and iron machinery clattering rhythmically. The air, heavy with soot, makes breathing a constant challenge, leaving your lungs perpetually irritated, your throat dry and raw. Breakfast, hastily prepared, consists of stale bread, boiled potatoes, and weak tea or bitter coffee, barely sufficient to sustain a day's strenuous labor. Fresh foods remain prohibitively expensive, reserved for wealthier city residents. Nutritional deficiencies manifest in workers' pale complexions, hollow eyes, and frail physiques, evidence of chronic malnutrition endured silently. Entering the factory gates, you join crowds of exhausted workers, forming endless lines streaming into dark, cavernous workshops filled with deafening machinery. The noise assaults your ears immediately, metal gears grinding, steam engines hissing, looms clattering endlessly. Conversation becomes nearly impossible, isolation reinforced by relentless industrial cacophony. Your workday consists of tedious, repetitive tasks, performed ceaselessly. You might feed materials into machinery, assemble components on production lines, or perform dangerous tasks involving heavy equipment, all demanding constant focus to avoid injury. Breaks rarely occur. Supervisors constantly monitor productivity, punishing minor delays harshly. Exhaustion accumulates relentlessly, physical strain compounded daily. Working conditions are extremely hazardous. Machinery operates without safety guards, exposing workers to frequent injuries, crushed limbs, lost fingers, severe burns, common occurrences. Air filled with dust, lint, toxic fumes causes respiratory ailments, coughing fits, chronic bronchitis, lung disease pervasive among factory employees. Workplace fatalities occur frequently, barely acknowledged by employers prioritizing profits over workers' safety. Child labor remains widespread, despite growing public outcry. Children as young as 7 perform adult-level tasks, enduring equally harsh conditions, long hours, inadequate wages. Education remains unattainable. Children's health compromised severely, their futures limited permanently by factory labor imposed prematurely. Wages barely sufficient for survival compel families to send multiple members, including women and children, into factory employment. Employers exploit workers' desperation ruthlessly, setting wages arbitrarily low, frequently docking pay for minor infractions, lateness, perceived inefficiency, damaged goods. Economic desperation traps workers perpetually, unable to improve circumstances despite relentless efforts. Housing conditions reflect workers' economic struggles. Tenements crowded, poorly ventilated buildings house multiple families within small rooms lacking privacy, sanitation, comfort. Vermin infestations, rats, roaches, lice spread disease swiftly, causing frequent epidemics. Cholera, tuberculosis, typhoid fever, devastating overcrowded urban neighborhoods routinely. Sanitation infrastructure remains inadequate. Shared outhouses overflow regularly, contaminating drinking water, spreading disease further. Workers endure chronic illness persistently, yet continue laboring despite deteriorating health conditions, driven by economic necessity relentlessly. Medical care proves inaccessible for factory employees. Doctors, hospitals prohibitively expensive, available only for emergencies or severe injuries. Minor illnesses frequently become life-threatening without treatment. Families rely heavily upon home remedies, traditional medicine insufficiently effective against severe industrial-related ailments experienced chronically. Social interactions remain limited severely by relentless working hours, exhaustion, poverty-induced shame, embarrassment. Churches, social clubs, neighborhood pubs offer brief escapes emotionally, though leisure remains minimal. Alcohol consumption, gambling provide fleeting distraction, yet exacerbate financial desperation significantly. Social isolation intensifies emotional, psychological struggles endured silently. Labor movements begin emerging slowly, advocating improved wages, shorter working hours, safer conditions passionately. Strikes, demonstrations erupt occasionally, workers risking jobs, personal safety, courageously demanding justice. Employers respond harshly, calling police, private security violently suppressing protests regularly. Labor conflicts escalate frequently, violence intensifying struggles endured collectively. Governmental responses prove inadequate initially, influenced heavily by industrial owners politically, economically powerful. Laws protecting workers emerge slowly, inadequately enforced initially. Child labor restrictions, workplace safety regulations introduced eventually. Yet factory abuses persist stubbornly, economic exploitation continuing relentlessly. Women's experiences within factories, especially harsh. Female employees perform identical tasks alongside male colleagues, yet earn significantly lower wages. Sexual harassment, workplace abuse widespread, female workers vulnerable severely emotionally, physically. Yet women demonstrate remarkable resilience, actively participating within labor movements courageously, advocating passionately improved conditions for themselves, families, communities persistently. Evenings offer brief respite from factory hardships. Families gather briefly within tenement rooms, sharing sparse meals, recounting daily struggles, dreams of improved futures, emotionally comforting, yet increasingly elusive. Sleep arrives quickly, yet restlessly, interrupted frequently by factory-related anxieties, troubling thoughts persistently through darkness endured uncomfortably. Yet within relentless industrial hardships endured daily, Workers demonstrate extraordinary resilience courageously. Families share limited resources generously. Neighbors assist during crises unselfishly. Mutual support networks emerge naturally. Friendships strengthen profoundly through collective adversity, endured silently yet heroically. Closing your eyes finally, exhausted yet determined, you acknowledge quietly profound strength demonstrated through relentless factory struggles endured daily. Dreams motivating, continued perseverance remain modest improved wages eventually, safer conditions finally, yet sustain emotional resilience powerfully. Factory workers endure harsh industrial conditions courageously, demonstrating extraordinary determination, resilience amid overwhelming adversity, experience collectively defining powerfully America's transformative, yet brutally demanding industrial revolution profoundly. You awaken before dawn, deep in the heart of a coal mining town nestled in the Appalachian Mountains. It's 1905, and your life revolves around coal, a dangerous, grueling occupation that defines every aspect of your daily existence. The air inside your small wooden house is thick with coal dust, penetrating through every crack and crevice, coating surfaces with a perpetual layer of black grime. Your home, owned by the mining company, is cramped, poorly insulated, and frequently damp. Company housing lines the steep hillsides, uniform wooden shacks clustered together, surrounded by piles of coal debris. Privacy is minimal. Large families share tiny rooms, sleeping on rough cots or mattresses filled with straw, covered by threadbare blankets inadequate against harsh mountain winters. Breakfast is simple fried potatoes, cornbread, perhaps eggs if you're fortunate. Fresh vegetables and fruits remain rare luxuries, expensive and seldom available. Nutritional deficiencies are widespread among miners and their families, resulting in weakened immune systems, chronic fatigue, and vulnerability to disease. Leaving home, you join hundreds of miners heading toward the mine entrance, lanterns swinging from their hands. Descending into darkness via narrow shafts or tunnels, claustrophobia tightens around you. The air grows cooler, stale, damp, carrying an ominous sense of danger. Every day you face potential death cave-ins, explosions, fires, or gas leaks haunting constant thoughts. Working conditions underground are brutal. Miners labor hunched over in narrow tunnels, wielding picks and shovels, cutting through solid rock and coal seams, filling heavy carts pushed manually toward collection points. Air circulation is minimal. Breathing becomes difficult as coal dust and toxic gases fill tunnels, causing persistent coughing, chest pain, and debilitating respiratory illnesses known collectively as black lung. Your body aches constantly from heavy lifting and repetitive movements. Miners frequently suffer injuries, broken bones, deep cuts, crushed limbs from cave-ins or falling rocks. Medical treatment underground is rudimentary. Injured workers must wait hours to reach the surface, their injuries often worsening irreparably during delays. Mine owners rarely offer compensation. Injured miners frequently dismissed without assistance, plunging families into deeper poverty. Child labor remains tragically common. Boys as young as 10 perform dangerous tasks, opening ventilation doors, sorting coal on conveyor belts, operating machinery enduring adult-level risks without protection. Education remains unattainable for most, children's futures permanently limited by early exposure to hazardous mining environments. Economic exploitation defines miners' lives profoundly. Companies control entire towns' housing, stores, healthcare operating under systems designed specifically to maintain miners' dependence. Miners paid in company scrip redeemable only at inflated company-owned stores, perpetually trapping families within cycles of debt. Unionizing efforts met with severe repression, workers advocating improved conditions fired, blacklisted, evicted swiftly, their families punished severely through economic retaliation. Social life within mining towns centers around mutual dependence. Families share resources generously, neighbors assisting during crises compassionately. Churches provide spiritual comfort, social gatherings, community events crucially important emotionally amid persistent hardships endured collectively. Recreation remains minimal, gathering informally, sharing stories, music, occasional dances, briefly easing daily struggles emotionally. Women's lives within mining communities prove especially demanding, responsible for household management, cooking, cleaning, childcare. Women support exhausted miners emotionally, physically, tirelessly. Additionally, women advocate passionately within labor movements, supporting strikes courageously, organizing community assistance, demonstrating extraordinary resilience despite personal risks endured bravely. Health problems among mining families pervasive. Respiratory illnesses caused by coal dust exposure afflict miners severely, yet also impact families breathing contaminated air continually. Sanitation, inadequate water sources polluted, outhouses overflowing, causing frequent epidemics of cholera, typhoid fever, dysentery, devastating communities routinely. Medical care remains inaccessible financially, medically inadequate severely. Families depend heavily upon home remedies insufficiently effective against chronic illnesses experienced persistently. Emotional strain among mining communities significant. Persistent fears regarding miners' safety underground cause chronic anxiety profoundly affecting families emotionally, psychologically. Fatal accidents devastate entire communities repeatedly, losses endured personally yet collectively mourned intensely. Mental health concerns, depression, anxiety, trauma remain unrecognized officially yet experienced widely among families enduring constant uncertainty relentlessly. Despite overwhelming hardships endured daily, miners demonstrate remarkable resilience. Community bonds strengthen profoundly through collective struggles, families supporting each other emotionally, practically unwaveringly. Mutual assistance networks form naturally, neighbors rallying compassionately during crises, funerals, injuries, financial hardships, demonstrating extraordinary courage, determination, solidarity, collectively defining mining communities emotionally, socially. Evenings offer brief relief emotionally. Families gather together within crowded homes, sharing sparse meals, recounting daily struggles, comforting each other quietly. Sleep arrives quickly, yet restlessly, interrupted frequently by persistent anxieties regarding miners' safety, troubling thoughts continuously through darkness endured vulnerably, fearfully. Closing your eyes finally, exhausted yet resolute, you acknowledge quietly profound strength demonstrated daily surviving relentless coal mining hardships. Dreams motivating continued endurance remain modest, yet powerful emotionally improved safety conditions eventually. Economic independence finally, brighter futures achievable gradually. Miners endure harsh conditions courageously, demonstrating extraordinary resilience, solidarity amid overwhelming adversity, experience collectively defining profoundly America's coal mining history, powerfully, emotionally, humanly. You awaken in the early morning darkness in a small wooden house on the outskirts of a southern town. The year is 1925, and your daily life is defined by the harsh, oppressive realities of Jim Crow segregation. The air is still cool, yet you already feel the heavy weight of uncertainty, injustice, and vulnerability pressing down upon you. Your home, modest and worn, stands in a segregated neighborhood where poverty is widespread, roads unpaved, sanitation inadequate. Infrastructure improvements never reach your community, neglected by a society intentionally designed to marginalize you. Your neighbors, similarly situated, rely heavily upon each other for emotional support, mutual assistance, and collective survival. Breakfast is modest yet carefully prepared. Cornbread, beans, occasionally eggs. Fresh foods remain prohibitively expensive. Nutritional deficiencies common among your community's children, manifesting as frequent illnesses, stunted growth, chronic fatigue. Despite hardships, meals provide brief moments of warmth, family connection, emotional comfort amid relentless daily struggles endured silently. Leaving home, you navigate a world strictly divided by racial lines. Public facilities, schools, hospitals, restaurants, buses are rigidly segregated, marked clearly by signs enforcing separation harshly, humiliatingly. Resources allocated profoundly unequally. Facilities for African Americans poorly maintained, overcrowded, underfunded severely. Employment opportunities remain severely limited. Jobs available to you domestic work, manual labor, sharecropping pay minimal wages, barely sufficient for basic survival. Employers exploit desperation ruthlessly, demanding long hours under harsh conditions, frequently withholding pay arbitrarily, punishing perceived infractions harshly. Economic mobility unattainable. Poverty remains constant threat endured persistently. Education provided inadequately within segregated schools buildings, dilapidated, supplies scarce, teachers poorly paid yet deeply dedicated, classrooms overcrowded severely, educational opportunities severely limited yet deeply cherished emotionally within your community, viewed powerfully as essential tools for future improvement, collective empowerment gradually achievable through persistent effort passionately pursued, healthcare inaccessible financially, medically insufficient severely, hospitals reserved exclusively for whites, African American patients treated within separate, inferior facilities if available at all, medical care provided by segregated hospitals inadequate routinely, chronic illnesses untreated persistently, life expectancy shortened significantly by racial disparities endured constantly, social interactions within segregated communities vital emotionally, socially, spiritually. Churches provide critical spiritual support, emotional comfort, community solidarity profoundly important amid daily hardships endured collectively. Religious gathering services, choir rehearsals, prayer meetings offer brief emotional respite, powerful expressions of collective hope, resilience, emotional strength passionately demonstrated regularly within your community. Entertainment, though limited financially, culturally vibrant profoundly. Music blues, gospel, jazz emerges powerfully, expressing emotional depth, resilience amid daily struggles endured silently. Community dances, informal gatherings, storytelling provide emotional connection, cultural continuity, powerful expressions of collective identity preserved passionately despite societal marginalization endured harshly, persistently. Racial violence, constant threat endured emotionally, physically. Lynchings, mob violence, racial terrorism widespread. Perpetrators rarely punished officially, justice denied routinely. Communities live perpetually under threat, fear governing daily interactions profoundly. Vigilance required constantly, personal safety precarious persistently. Families teaching children early cautious behavior required emotionally, physically for survival daily. Political disenfranchisement complete, voting rights systematically denied, literacy tests, poll taxes, intimidation tactics prevent African Americans from political participation effectively. Political powerlessness reinforces economic exploitation, social marginalization profoundly. Community leaders advocating passionately for civil rights frequently face severe retaliation, job losses, violence, threats, yet persist courageously, demonstrating extraordinary moral strength, profoundly inspiring community determination, collectively. Women within your community assume profound responsibilities emotionally, practically. Managing households with minimal resources, providing emotional support to families enduring constant hardships silently, actively participating within church activities, community organizing passionately, demonstrating extraordinary resilience despite personal vulnerabilities endured courageously, daily. Families separated frequently by economic necessity, men traveling long distances seeking employment, mothers managing households independently, children assisting with household labor, child care from young ages. Family bonds tested profoundly yet strengthened emotionally through collective struggles, endured persistently, passionately, lovingly. Migration northward becomes powerful aspiration emotionally, practically for many families. Northern cities promise improved employment opportunities, educational access, reduced racial hostility, though often realities encountered differ starkly, harshly. Families separated geographically profoundly, yet connected emotionally powerfully through letters, memories, dreams, motivating continued perseverance passionately, despite profound hardships endured persistently. Psychological impacts profound chronic stress, anxiety, depression, widespread among communities enduring racial oppression daily. Emotional trauma intergenerationally transmitted powerfully. Families carrying emotional scars persistently, yet demonstrating extraordinary emotional resilience collectively, passionately, determined persistently toward improved futures achievable gradually through persistent advocacy, courage, community solidarity, demonstrated powerfully daily. Evening arrives, providing brief emotional relief quietly. Families gathered together within homes, sharing modest meals, recounting daily struggles, comforting each other emotionally, spiritually. Prayer offers powerful emotional comfort, collective hope passionately expressed emotionally, reinforcing community bonds powerfully despite societal marginalization, endured harshly, persistently. Sleep arrives restlessly, interrupted frequently by persistent anxieties regarding personal safety, economic vulnerability, troubling thoughts continuously through darkness, endured vulnerably, fearfully, emotionally. Yet within relentless Jim Crow hardships endured daily, African American communities demonstrate extraordinary emotional strength, collective resilience powerfully inspiring. Dreams motivating continued perseverance remain modest, yet profoundly powerful, emotionally improved civil rights eventually. Economic mobility achievable gradually. Racial justice passionately pursued persistently. African Americans endure harsh racial oppression courageously, demonstrating extraordinary emotional resilience, collective determination profoundly inspiring, defining powerfully America's civil rights struggle humanly, emotionally, profoundly. You awaken abruptly in a makeshift barracks, a tent, or perhaps even a foxhole somewhere in Europe or the Pacific. It's 1944, and your life, like millions of others, is consumed entirely by World War II. The immediate sensation upon waking is exhaustion mixed with a gnawing anxiety. Today could bring combat, injury, or death, possibilities ever present at the forefront of your mind. Your morning routine is hurried and uncomfortable. You pull on damp boots, worn socks, and a wrinkled uniform stained with dirt, mud, and sweat from yesterday's exertions. Meals consist of canned rations, dried biscuits, powdered eggs, and bitter coffee. Fresh food is rare, reserved for special occasions. Daily meals monotonous, yet eaten gratefully, sustaining minimal energy levels necessary for constant readiness. Daily tasks involve continuous physical and emotional strain, long marches carrying heavy equipment, endless patrols under harsh weather conditions, exhausting training exercises to maintain combat readiness. You spend hours digging trenches, reinforcing positions, cleaning equipment, and preparing for possible attacks. Your muscles ache constantly, fatigue accumulates relentlessly, yet vigilance remains essential. Any lapse could prove deadly. Combat arrives unpredictably, yet devastatingly. Suddenly, gunfire erupts, explosions shatter the air, chaos reigns. Your adrenaline surges as you move rapidly through confusions, taking cover, returning fire, supporting comrades amid deafening noise and blinding flashes. The battlefield becomes a terrifying mix of sights and sounds, men screaming, wounded comrades calling for help, the acrid smell of gunpowder and burning fuel searing your senses permanently. Emotional trauma is profound. Witnessing the deaths of friends and fellow soldiers leaves indelible psychological scars, grief overwhelming yet suppressed, postponed until later moments of solitude. You assist wounded comrades, carrying them desperately to overwhelmed medical stations where doctors perform emergency surgeries under primitive conditions. Casualties mount quickly, each loss deeply personal, haunting your memories persistently. Medical conditions are harsh and primitive. Battlefield hospitals tense, makeshift shelters are overcrowded, undersupplied severely. Doctors and nurses perform surgeries hastily without sufficient anesthesia or antibiotics. Infections rampant, survival uncertain. Minor wounds frequently become life-threatening. Soldiers often sent back into combat prematurely, still recovering physically, emotionally, yet determined persistently. Communication home remains infrequent, yet emotionally vital. Letters arrive sporadically, months late, delivering outdated news emotionally cherished, yet insufficient for genuine connection. Families wait anxiously at home, uncertain of your safety, their lives suspended emotionally amid wartime uncertainty. You write letters regularly, desperately attempting to reassure loved ones despite personal fears, exhaustion, emotional strain endured silently. Living conditions on the battlefield are severe. Soldiers endure constant exposure to elements, rain, snow, extreme heat, bitter cold. Foxholes flood with rainwater. Clothing remains perpetually damp, hygiene minimal. Bathing becomes a rare luxury. Lice, fleas, and vermin infest clothing persistently, causing discomfort and disease frequently. Illnesses, malaria, dysentery, pneumonia spread rapidly among troops already physically weakened by harsh conditions endured constantly. Sleep deprivation becomes chronic. Nights spent on guard duty, interrupted frequently by alarms, shelling, or enemy attacks. Soldiers snatch brief moments of restless sleep in uncomfortable positions, anxiety constantly disturbing dreams, nightmares replaying traumatic combat experiences vividly. Fatigue accumulates persistently, impairing judgment, increasing vulnerability physically, emotionally. Social bonds among soldiers become profoundly important emotionally. Friendships forged amid shared hardships provide critical emotional support. Camaraderie, essential for survival. Soldiers rely intensely upon each other emotionally, practically sharing food, comforting wounded comrades, providing emotional reassurance persistently amid relentless wartime struggles endured together. Entertainment, though limited severely, provides occasional emotional relief. Soldiers gather around radios, eagerly listening to news broadcasts, popular music, sports events providing brief distractions emotionally from daily hardships. Card games, storytelling, reading letters aloud offer brief moments of normalcy, emotional connection, temporary escape from harsh wartime realities endured continuously. Morale fluctuates continuously, profoundly influenced by battlefield outcomes, living conditions, communication home. Victories boost emotional resilience temporarily. Defeats, casualties, prolonged hardships depress morale significantly. Soldiers demonstrate extraordinary emotional resilience persistently, supported powerfully by camaraderie, sense of duty, belief passionately in wartime cause, motivating continued endurance emotionally, physically. Cultural differences among soldiers initially challenging, yet overcome powerfully through shared hardships. Units composed of diverse backgrounds, regional differences, varied ethnicities, bond intensely, stereotypes dismantled persistently amid collective wartime experiences, endured emotionally, physically, profoundly. Women's roles during wartime expand dramatically, serving courageously as nurses, drivers, communication specialists, factory workers supporting war efforts critically. Female soldiers experience severe emotional strain caring compassionately for wounded, managing homes independently during prolonged separations, emotionally challenging, yet demonstrating extraordinary resilience, strength, determination, persistently throughout wartime hardships endured powerfully. As evening approaches, soldiers gather quietly sharing sparse meals, recounting experiences quietly, emotionally supporting each other. Sleep arrives restlessly, interrupted frequently by battlefield anxieties troubling minds persistently through darkness endured vulnerably, fearfully, emotionally. Closing your eyes finally, exhausted yet determined persistently, you reflect briefly on extraordinary hardships endured daily. Dreams motivating, continued perseverance remain modest yet powerful emotionally survival through wartime experiences, eventual return home safely, restoration emotionally, physically achievable gradually through determination, demonstrated courageously daily. American soldiers during World War II endure extraordinary hardships courageously, demonstrating profound emotional resilience, camaraderie, determination amid overwhelming adversity, experienced, collectively defining, powerfully America's wartime history humanly, emotionally, profoundly. You awaken before sunrise in a modest log cabin somewhere on the vast American frontier. It's 1875 and your daily life is marked by relentless challenges, harsh weather, isolation, endless work, and constant uncertainty. Your dreams of freedom, land, and opportunity are tempered daily by the harsh realities of survival in this remote, unforgiving landscape. Your cabin, constructed hastily from logs and mud chinking, offers minimal comfort. It leaks during storms, allowing wind and snow to seep through cracks. Inside your sparse furnishings, a rough-hewn table, chairs, a bed stuffed with straw, reflect the simplicity and hardship of frontier life. Fire provides heat and cooking capability, yet gathering sufficient firewood demands constant physical labor amid harsh weather. Breakfast consists of simple, repetitive fair cornmeal mush, biscuits, salted pork, or eggs from your few chickens. Fresh fruits and vegetables remain scarce, preserved carefully when available. Nutritional deficiencies are common among frontier families, resulting in persistent illnesses, fatigue, weakened immune systems. Yet meals provide crucial sustenance and brief family bonding moments amid daily hardships endured silently. Morning routines involve demanding physical tasks. Livestock requires constant care feeding animals, milking cows, gathering eggs, essential for survival. Predators such as wolves, bears, coyotes threaten livestock regularly, demanding constant vigilance and readiness for defense. Crop cultivation requires grueling manual labor plowing, sowing, weeding, harvesting, completed with basic, often unreliable tools and minimal help. Weather poses continuous challenges. Summers bring relentless heat, drought-threatening crops frequently. Winters deliver bitter cold, blizzards isolating families entirely for weeks, jeopardizing survival without sufficient supplies or warmth. Spring rains cause flooding. Storms produce tornadoes capable of destroying homes instantly. Pioneers quickly learn resilience, adaptability, determination profoundly necessary for survival amid relentless environmental adversities experienced constantly. Medical care is primitive, inadequate, distant. Professional medical assistance remains inaccessible. Families rely heavily upon home remedies. Traditional folk medicine minimally effective. Childbirth poses severe risks to mothers and infants without trained assistance. Injuries, broken bones, severe cuts, burns receive minimal treatment. Infections common, often fatal or permanently disabling. Families endure chronic illnesses silently, profoundly affecting emotional, physical well-being persistently. Social isolation profoundly affects emotional resilience. Neighbors live miles apart, visits rare yet emotionally cherished intensely. Communication with distant relatives, letters exchanged infrequently. Months delayed emotionally provides minimal comfort, yet insufficient substitutes emotionally for genuine connection. Homesickness, loneliness, emotional strain, widespread among frontier settlers, enduring daily isolation profoundly, silently. Children's lives combine relentless labor with limited educational opportunities. They assume significant responsibilities, early caring for younger siblings, tending livestock, assisting crop cultivation. Education provided minimally within sparse one-room schoolhouses when available. Frequent absences due to farm responsibilities severely limit academic progress, restricting future opportunities permanently. Women's roles within frontier homes exceptionally demanding, emotionally, physically. Responsible for household management, cooking, cleaning, childcare. Women also contribute significantly to farm work alongside husbands. Emotional resilience demonstrated profoundly, managing isolation, hardship, emotional support persistently, courageously. Women's diaries frequently document frontier struggles emotionally, providing valuable historical insights into daily experiences endured silently yet heroically. Interactions with Native American communities complicated profoundly by cultural misunderstandings, resource competition, increasing conflicts due to westward expansion, encounters occasionally peaceful trade, mutual assistance occurring briefly, yet frequently marked by tensions, hostility, violence. Rumors, fears circulated widely among settlers, increasing emotional anxiety, suspicion persistently. Economic hardships endured continuously. Frontier settlers frequently accumulate substantial debt purchasing land, livestock, equipment necessary for survival. Market fluctuations jeopardize financial stability significantly. Crop failures devastate families economically, emotionally, forcing desperate survival strategies, bartering goods, laboring elsewhere temporarily, scavenging materials persistently. Community gatherings infrequent yet emotionally vital church services, barn raisings, harvest celebrations providing crucial social connection, emotional support, collective resilience amid relentless hardships endured individually, yet collectively. Friendships formed amid adversity profoundly important emotionally, socially, strengthening community bonds significantly through shared struggles endured persistently. Entertainment limited financially yet culturally meaningful, emotionally, music shared informally, storytelling recounting family histories, religious faith expressed powerfully through prayer meetings, hymn singing emotionally sustaining frontier families persistently through relentless hardships endured daily. Evenings provide brief emotional relief quietly. Families gather together around fires or lamps, sharing modest meals, recounting daily experiences emotionally, spiritually, emotionally supporting each other profoundly amid daily struggles, endured silently yet heroically. Sleep arrives restlessly, interrupted frequently by persistent anxieties regarding survival, financial vulnerability, isolation, health concerns, troubling minds continuously through darkness, endured vulnerably, emotionally. Yet within relentless frontier hardships endured daily, pioneer families demonstrate extraordinary emotional resilience, determination profoundly inspiring, dreams motivating continued perseverance remain modest yet powerful emotionally, economic stability gradually achievable, improved living conditions eventually attainable, children's futures improve steadily through persistent efforts, demonstrated passionately daily. American pioneers endure harsh frontier conditions courageously, demonstrating extraordinary emotional resilience, adaptability, determination amid overwhelming adversities, experienced collectively defining profoundly America's westward expansion, humanly, emotionally, powerfully.